Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times to talk about books, to talk about mostly horror books because that's, where my heart is at. And I'm here to let you know some of the new releases for the month of April.
It's coffee time.
So as always, I have put a list of books that are coming out in the month of April that are horror and thrillers. There are a couple here that are a combination of different genres, which I think is really interesting. And as always, I'm going to be mentioning them by release date. This might not be all of them, but these are some that were on my radar, so I'm just sharing it with you guys. So hopefully you'll find here something that you're interested in. But first, coffee. And my birds in the background, which I can still hear them, and they are in a complete different floor. Let's start with Dead Girls Can't Tell Secrets by Chelsea Ichazo. And this is a YA mystery thriller. It is a mystery of a fall, of an accident that we're gonna have to solve. But was it an accident or was it attempted murder? That's what we're gonna have to find out here with the two sisters. Piper is hiking and she has an accident, she falls and she ends up in a coma. Now her sister Savannah thinks that there's some kind of foul play here. She thinks that there's more to it than this just being an accident. She thinks basically somebody attempted to kill her sister and she's trying to figure out who would like to murder her sister. The problem is her sister cannot talk, she's in a coma, so there's not much information that she can get from her. So this is going to be an interesting mystery thriller. I'm not sure if it's going to be told all from the perspective of Savannah or if we're going to see flashbacks through Piper even though she's in a coma. But I do love that two timeline thing, or two characters telling us the same story kind of thing. So if you've read an advanced copy and know if this is the case, please let me know. Under Her Skin, edited by Lindy Ryan, and this is a compilation, like an anthology of horror poetry. What I like about this is that it is very diverse. It is basically a compilation of never published before horror by women, and it is horror poetry, so I really encourage you guys to pick it up, support the women in the horror community. And so far when I have read horror poetry, even though I don't read so much, it's always such a nice experience because you can always squeeze it in any time of the day, and they tend to be really intense tales about horrors of real life most of the time. Horror is a reflection of things that we fear in real life. Sometimes they are, elevated or changed into something supernatural. But at the end of the day, I believe that's why I love horror so much, is because it's actually pretty relatable. Witchings by Claribel A. Ortega, and this is a middle grade book. It is spooky, it's a little bit of fantasy, but also has some touches of the paranormal, since of course we deal here with witches. It sounded to me when I read the synopsis that something similar to Harry Potter. So there is this community of witches in this magical town that I guess when they come of age or when they're ready to go to witch school, they are sorted into covens and there is this ritual that they do in order to know to which coven the little witch belongs to. Which of course reminded me of the Sorting Hat, and I've been rewatching all the Harry Potter movies now before the third installment in Fantastic Beasts comes out next week, I believe, here. So yeah, this really reminded me of kind of Harry Potter. Our main character is 12 years old, and I believe we get to discover the different type of witches and which ones are, looked down upon and which ones are more celebrated depending on, I guess, the things that they can do and the groups that they are sorted into. So it kind of reminded me of that rivalry, also between Slytherin and, Gryffindor and all of that. So I don't know if it's going to be really that similar, but it gave me those vibes. So I'm really intrigued about this one, and I wanted to read more middle grade this year, so hopefully I can get a copy of this. Dark is the Water and Other Weird Tales by Susan Earlem. And this one is supposed to be a compilation of weird fiction and horror. It's supposed to be also really short, so again, perfect for people that need to squeeze in a little bit of reading here and there. Apparently the author really likes to write about, what the body can do and metamorphosis and things like that. So I'm really excited to see what she did with these stories. They're probably going to be really weird, and even though they're short, probably really intense. I don't know if it's body horror per se. I have never never read anything by the author, but you know, if you like these kind of things, maybe give it a chance. Asian Ghost Horror Stories, edited by Lee Murray, and this, as the title says, it is a compilation of short horror stories from East, South, and Southeast Asia. Really interesting. I always felt like Asian horror hits differently. At least it was always the case for me with movies. I have not read so many horror books by Asian authors. I should change that, because I'm pretty sure that the way they write their horror is very different from the way that we do it either in the United States or in Europe. So I'm really intrigued about novels or short horror stories from Asia, because like I said, I have not read enough and we need to change that. Insomnia by Sarah Bingborough, and this is a mystery thriller, an adult one, and the author had another book last year. I think it was called something like Good Neighbors or something like that, and that one has been recommended to me, but I have heard mixed reviews and I still have not picked it up. But apparently she's coming back with another twisty mystery thriller. We follow Emma. She has a great legal career and she has children that she loves, her husband that she loves, and her husband works from home so he can take care of the kids. So everything seems perfect, you know, from the outside. But Emma starts to suffer insomnia, and she's starting to get really scared about it because she's afraid that she's going to go insane. It's something that already happened to her mother, so she's afraid that she's gonna follow those footsteps. So yeah, that is kind of like the gist of it, of the story. I'm expecting, of course, this being a mystery thriller, to have its twists and turns. I have never read anything by the author. I think she also wrote Behind Her Eyes. So if there's any of her books that you think it's the best and that's the one I should start with, let me know down below. Woman Eating by Claire Coda, and this is a literally vampire novel, and I am so excited for this one. I'm really hoping this is going to be another different take, another different, interesting, more fresh angle to vampires. This is also a debut novel, and not only that, but our main character is a biracial, half human, half vampire that is trying to juggle her life, and also the fact that she has this hunger for blood. Lydia's hungry, and you know, she always loved specific type of foods, and especially I think Japanese foods, and now she's not really able to have all of that food because her hunger doesn't come from that. She's actually craving blood. So I believe at the beginning she tries to see if drinking like pig's blood or any type of blood that maybe she can get from the butchers, if she can get away with it. But this being a horror novel, I'm expecting her not to be able to resist and to just attack. Hopefully someone will die. That's my wish. It sounds awful, but it's true. You know, when you read a horror novel, at some point you kind of want to see some blood being shed. But anyways, what I wanted to tell you is that I am extremely excited about this one, because you guys know I love vampire stories, and I am tired of having a lot of vampire stories that are all the same paranormal romance thing. Nothing wrong with that. I enjoy myself a cheesy paranormal story about werewolves or vampires. Like, I love that. I eat that shit up as well. But sometimes I just want something a little bit more raw, something more realistic, something a little bit fresh. So yeah, I'm excited for this one. Can you tell? The New Neighbor by Carter Wilson, and this is a psychological mystery thriller about someone that, you know, one day just his life changes and he thinks it's for the better. But is it though? Aiden is very superstitious. He's been playing the same lottery numbers for years, and guess what? One day he actually wins, and that ends up changing his life. He's able to move to a better house, to a better neighborhood, and things are looking up for him. But he is not such a lucky man, because at the same time that he gets all of this money, he also loses his wife. So he's kind of trying to juggle between two major events that happened in his life that could not be more different from each other. I believe the problems here start when he moves into this new fresh neighborhood with the richer people, and he is the new neighbor. And he, I guess, gets to know the community there, and people are really curious about him. So I don't know if this is gonna have a lot of secrets of this community, of these neighbors, but I love myself a good story about, you know, a new neighborhood where people might look or sound kind of sketchy. And Then I Woke Up by Malcolm Delvin. This is a story about false narratives and how they always end up dividing us. We are in a world in which we had a plague, and we have now groups of survivors that kind of kept together, you know, specific groups of people that probably met during the whole ordeal. And we also have a group of the cured, which are the people that were able to get and survive this plague, I guess, that are currently in a rehabilitation center. So this sounds like a post-apocalyptic scenario. I know a lot of people are tired of this kind of stories, but I'm still enjoying every single one of them. However, you're a little bit sensitive about this being about a plague or a virus, then just keep that in mind. I know a lot of people are still really struggling since 2020 to read these kind of things, so just keep that in mind. The Echo Man by Sam Holland, and this is your typical adult mystery thriller with detectives. Even though the plot might sound simple at the beginning, we do follow a serial killer that, you know, I really enjoy to read about serial killers. And this is a story in which two detectives are investigating separate murder cases that are really brutal. And as the, you know, murders escalate, they start to realize that they might be possibly connected. So they're gonna have to work together to figure out who is actually behind all of these murders. They thought it was a different person, now they've realized it's the same one. So, you know, kind of like same scenario. I don't know if this is a copycat or if it's actually the same serial killer, but yeah. You know, these kind of detective mystery thrillers are hit or miss always for me, but there is something really enjoyable if you read a mystery thriller that has a really good investigation. I feel like for the most part is the way they resolve the cases, or the way we get to the end. That's when I lower my rating. So yeah, we shall see, but you know, it sounds fun. The Mill by Caitlin Lloyd, and this is a story about a girl that has a specific power. She is able to see the ghosts of the deceased, and you know, she's used to see ghosts lurking in the dark, and where she moves to a new place, there's ghosts there, new ones that she gets to meet. And she gets involved kind of in a murder mystery case. Well, that involves a serial killer as well, because the body of a woman appears murdered, plus another one disappears. So she's kind of trying to talk to the ghost and navigate that world in order to get answers to who is behind these murders. End of the World House by Adrienne Selt, and this is a combination of sci-fi, fantasy, and horror. It's also supposed to have a little bit of touches of comedy, and we follow a set of women that are trying to keep their friendship alive while the world around them collapses. So our two main characters, our two friends, are trying to get away for some time, just to take a trip together because everything in their lives is coming apart. So they decide to take a trip to Paris, and they end up meeting a stranger, and they get offered a private tour from the Louvre at night when it's closed, and they decide to go. Like, who does that? But anyway, like, you're putting yourself in an uncomfortable position here, okay? Like, you're kind of risking it a little bit too much, and I just made up that word, so that's fine. So anyways, they get into the museum at night, and things start to look a little bit weird. Plus they end up getting separated inside of the museum, and that's when I think the horror part maybe comes around. I'm really intrigued because it's combining not just horror but also fantasy and sci-fi, so I really want to see what the story is truly about. I Am the Ghost in Your House by Maria Romasco Moore, and this is a horror fantasy YA with LGBTQ characters. What I'm really excited about from this book is that apparently it's being told from the perspective of the ghosts, which is something that we don't see done all the time, and I think it's really interesting. So we're following Pi and her mother that are ghosts, and they travel around. I mean, what a great time to just travel and see everything for free. And Pi wants to go to Pittsburgh because that's where she once fell in love, and she's hoping to rekindle that. But you know, the problem is that she's kind of invisible and nobody can really see her. So I'm hoping also that this one touches a little bit on grief and what it is to be dead, when you can still see people living around you and still having a life that you no longer have. I'm also intrigued because Pi is apparently doing all of these things with her mother in the ghost realm. So also, how did it die? Like, I don't know, this one is really intriguing to me. The Drowning Summer by Christine Lynn Herman, and this is a YA mystery thriller, and it also is about witches and includes LGBTQ characters. 6 years ago, 3 girls were found murdered in Long Island. They were drowned and they had sand dollars over their eyes when their bodies were discovered, and that is the mystery of the drowning girls that was never solved. And we also follow Mina, which comes from a generation of mediums, and she's able to connect, to make a connection with the world of the dead, with the realm of the dead. And in one of those attempts to contact someone, I believe something goes really wrong, and it's probably going to be related maybe to the drowned girls from that mystery. That's what I believe, or what would make sense, I guess. So that we get to figure out what actually happened to those girls that were killed and drowned. And now let's go to The Doctor's Demons by Maria Abrams. And this horror book has such a beautiful cover. This cover is stunning, and just based on the cover, I kind of already want to buy this book. We follow Hannah, who is a child psychiatrist, and nothing could have prepared her for what she was going to go through with her new patient, Elena, because she's possessed by a demon. So I'm here like, yes please. I do like possession stories. Still my favorite now is The Exorcist after I read that book. Favorite movie about possession, but I'm really open to this book and I'm really excited because also, like I said, the cover is already selling it to me. The Children on the Hill by Jennifer McMahon, and this is another mystery thriller slash horror. I did read The Winter People by this author and I really truly enjoyed it, and it's also a book that is told through different timelines and different characters, and the same thing happens with this one. So I'm really excited because I do love these double timeline when it's done correctly, and when everything starts to come together at some point. It's just so satisfying to me to put these two stories together. So I'm really excited about her new release. In this case, the timelines are 1978 and 2019, and by what I hear, this is a book that has been inspired by Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Indeed, one of the main characters is called Lizzie Shelley, which might be a combination between Lizzie Borden and Mary Shelley. I don't know, maybe I'm stretching it a little bit, but we love to stretch it with our theories. So anyways, it is about the monsters of childhood, the monsters of real life and stuff like that, and I'm just so here for it. The Winter People was such an amazing atmospheric story about horror and grief, and this one sounds also fantastic. Dig to Graves by Gretchen McNeil, and this is another YA mystery thriller. A lot of YA mystery thrillers coming out, so if you love that type of genre, this is the month for you. Our 17-year-old main character loves film noir, and she has just been betrayed by her best friend. She's not having the best time of her life, so she decides to go to an empowerment camp to kind of recharge the energy and try to, you know, move on. But of course, things are gonna go wrong. People are gonna turning up murdered, and we're gonna have to figure out what happened here. So I'm excited that it takes place at a camp. I love camp settings. I feel like I love nearly every setting. Like I just love horror in general. I just love things people are trapped, love it. People that go to a campsite, love it. Like I just love a lot of different scenarios. Moving on with a really expected one, which is The Forever by Alma Katsu, and this is another historical horror. That is what she is known for, with The Hunger in the Deep, and her stories are always really atmospheric. She does a really good job when it comes to setting up the scenes. This time she tells the story of the Japanese American internment camps for World War II, and it's probably gonna be really brutal, and you know, just the real events are already extremely horrific. So I'm really excited to see what she does here and with the characters and how she sets up the horror, if she's going to do something supernatural with it or not, because obviously we all know the real horror of this type of camps. Alright guys, so these are all the new releases that I had for you on my radar that are coming out in the month of April. Let me know down below if there's anything else that's coming out that I missed, especially if it's horror slash thriller. And I just wanted to bring you a message here today because I have been struggling to keep a schedule with, you know, YouTube, my job, my cats, the house, everything that still needs to be done, plus trying to get back to the gym. And sometimes life is a lot. And I feel like every time I try to pick up everything and start again, something happens. You know, I moved countries to a new house. That was really stressful and I was really busy. Then I lost a loved one. Then I was sick for a week and a half, and it's like they're trying to push me down every time that I stand up. So this is a reminder that if you're struggling, keep going, keep pushing, and it's okay to say, okay, tomorrow I start fresh, or next week I start fresh, but just don't give up. Just keep going and it will be okay. The important thing is never to give up, stand up again, keep going, because we all have really bad days. Sometimes we have even a really bad month, so just keep going. Anyway, that was my message, my little TED talk of today. Just push and keep going, because a lot of things are going to be thrown at you and you just gotta keep going and focusing on what you want and your goals and working on yourself. So I love you guys so much. I still need to make a Q&A. I have not forgotten about it. That will come as soon as I am able to collect all the questions. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed the video. Please give it a big thumbs up to support the channel, and I hope to see you all guys as always in our next coffee time. Bye.